George H.W. Bush and Ronald Reagan. Remember voodoo economics? Who did Ronald Reagan end up picking for his VP candidate?
H.W.
There you go. So I don't know. This is going to be a toboggan ride like none others, and we will be taking jumps off of the snowy hill and landing, and then taking a twist and a turn like we've never seen.
Yeah. We asked Chris Arps what he thought, and he thought with her big coffers that she'd stick around and stay in it as of this morning when we talked to Chris. What? Not 24 hours
That's right.
ago.
Yeah,
that's right.
I told Stephanie this morning I was a little surprised that she dropped out because it did kind of seem like she was in it for the long haul, even though she knew, what the outcome was going to be.
I'm going to say this. I think she is going to be, maybe from the periphery, maybe not from the VP nominee side, she's going to be the difference maker. Her voice will be important because she's the first woman in the Republican primaries to win 2 of them, albeit in Vermont yesterday, preventing a clean sweep by Donald Trump and D.C. Over the weekend. Okay, but that still sends a message. If you want to get the independents, you got to do something other than get Trump Jr., in my opinion. That's my opinion. If you have an opinion, 573-874-9390. But then again, as of late last night, I was still taking beef for talking about the health aspects of grass-fed beef. So what is my opinion worth? What can I say?
Senator Lincoln Huff is on board with Stephanie and I.
Lincoln Huff gave me an earful last night at the Cindy
really?
O'Loughlin. No, he was a good sport. We talked about it and saw Senator Huff, and it was a fabulous event last night as Senator Cindy O'Loughlin was honored, and it was a great, great event as the state's Woman of the Year.
Yeah, it was nice. And she's going to join us later, right?
She will join us at 7:30. 7:35. That's right. Because it was, huh?
Well, I was going to say I had a little lighthearted moment with her last night.
Did you?
I introduced myself officially.
Yeah.
Right? Because she's been on the show several times, but I've never met her in person. And I said, yeah, I'm on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And she turns to the lady that's with her and she goes, oh, that reminds me I'm on with Randy in the morning. I said, hey, me too.
Yeah.
That's my show.
Well, I texted her yesterday and I said, hey, I know that you've got a busy day to day and night and you got things going on, but could you join us just to celebrate with the Wake Up Mid-Missouri gang? For those of you who, may favor the Missouri Freedom Caucus and you land on the side of, Eigel.
Good Bill or bad Bill?
Yeah, she's...
That's Cindy's line?
It was, that was it. Yeah, she says she walks into the... I remember the last time she was with it. I walk into the Senate floor and ask him that day, am I going to see good Bill or bad Bill today? Some of the people speaking last night it was a lot of fun. One of them said, who was it that said, she has the second toughest job in Jefferson City. The first toughest job being Lincoln Huff's hairdresser. So there was a lot of roasting going on. And she said, someone else said that she is Caleb Rowden's spine.
Ouch. So it was a little bit of a roast.
It was a roast.
It.
A little
I
bit
like
of
it.
a
Well,
roast.
it was really well attended.
It was fun.
And I know the women were raising money in an auction and just a nice event. And you can see, we talk a lot about how much disagreement there is, but you can see like the camaraderie and the respect a lot of folks have for each other. Speaking of Bill Eigel, it is being reported that he had some sort of health episode. And that he is noticeably absent from the Senate this week, and we're expecting an update, I think, sometime next week.
Yeah, I asked her last night when I saw her, and we got a couple pictures. I posted some stuff up on social media that I said, well, how are you faring? I mean, how are the battles going? She said, I'm having a little respite. Bill's out for a few days. But what a great, great leader. And it was a remarkable event. Spent some time talking with Mayor Ron Fitzwater. We had some great conversation. Saw a lot of great people there. And like you say, it was good to see the camaraderie. Very, very nice. And met Representative Patterson. Is that
John Patterson, yeah.
And he's a doc. He's a general surgeon,
he
I
is
found
a doc.
out.
He has a really cool story. And of course, he's in leadership, so a rising star.
I was kidding him. I said, where'd you train? He said, Mizzou. I said, oh, well, no wonder you went into politics. I'm a WashU guy, There's a friendly camaraderie, a friendly competition between medical schools,
There's not a
Kansas City, Mizzou, and, the St. Louis U and WashU.
Well, there's not a lot of docs and legislators, right? Like Onder is a doc. Have there been others?
a retired representative from Rolla area. He used to be in the legislature.
Yes,
Remember him?
Yes.
So but it was a great event and a lot of fun. Hannah, you like to say I like to whine. We took home a couple of silent auction items. Tried to contribute because that goes to a scholarship fund for upcoming leaders. Right? It's the Women's Caucus Scholarship Fund. I think that wasn't that the benefit last night.
I do have to tell on Mrs. Tobler for just a second.
Okay.
You got up from the table to go check on how your bids were doing.
Yes.
On the silent auction items. About 60 seconds after you walked away, she looked at me and she stands up. She goes, I better go make sure he doesn't bid too high on these things.
I'm known for getting caught in the frenzy of the silent auction bid. Yeah,
not you.
But it's because it's for a good cause.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's for a good cause,
That's what I tell my husband when I come home with all the auction items. Yeah, and I'm like, I'm on this board. It's my duty to bid it up, and so I always come home with a bunch of stuff I don't need.
Well, we got this one. There was a couple of nice bottles of wine and some wine glasses, and a huge wine glass. I'm talking 20 inches tall, huge. And I talked to someone who said that she got it at some antique store and put it all together. Now, what are we going to do with it? She said we can't. I put it at the bar. Because it had little twinkle lights and some cork sticking out of it.
Oh, that's
put it on the
cute.
bar, and she says that sort of reminds me of A Christmas Story with the leg, the guy with the lamp that looks like a leg. She says, "This is your Christmas Story lamp."
You can decorate it for all the seasons.
I once came home with a poster board full of scratcher tickets. $400 worth of scratch. It took us a month to try to scratch these things. It was fun.
That's fun.
You gotta love a silent auction.
And Brian Hauswirth joins us this morning. Foggy day in London town.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you and Stephanie's on a lot of boards, and congratulations to both of you for your service and what you guys do. And it's important to these groups are fantastic. So absolutely. Two quick things this morning that I think we should mention. Statewide tornado drills at 11 this morning. Now that is always inevitably. I'm just going to let everybody know that front desk will be inundated with calls at 11 o'clock this morning. Are we under a tornado warning? But we'll mention it, John and I, in every newscast 11 this morning, especially, folks, if you know elderly people that may not have access to a radio, please remind them because people do panic when they hear these things 11 o'clock this morning. The good news is we're going to have sunshine. And John knows this better than anybody, but, guys, I think this Unilever announcement in Jefferson City is a big, big deal. $80 million expansion. They just announced $25 million expansion. And Jefferson City is a company town. There's no question with state employees, but it's one of the top 10 employers in terms of numbers, and they have 450
by
people.
far, yeah.
And, and John, you remember Warren Hearns is the one that helped get that plant out there in 1966. It's still in that location.
Back when it was Cheeseboro Pond.
That's right. Exactly. Right across from the Department of Conservation. So that's a big story. The governor actually made the announcement.
Every week we see some folks there. Unilever, along with Hubble up in Centralia, and there's another local company who's just entered into it. They have a fantastic employee health plan. I have to commend that. They have an employee health plan. They come in, and several docs in the area, we're among them, do one of the most thorough physical exams I've ever seen. We put them through the YMCA step test. I mean, we're doing color vision. We're doing audiometry. We're doing the whole deal. And talking to the people there, and they enjoy their work. They love it, and they take care. That is a great benefit plan. They have wellness coaching. They have everything for those folks. Unilever really stands out.
Yeah, and I wasn't aware of the benefits, but that makes sense. And a lot of those employees, men and women, have been there for years.
Yeah.
When I'm doing my scoreboards, and of course I lived in Jeff City 3 times, but they work. They're there, 7 days a week.
Did they deport you 3 times and you came back in?
Moved to other jobs, but
he moved the fence.
Exactly. But I definitely remember it as Cheeseboro Ponds. That's what a lot of the older people will remember it as. But yeah, that's great stuff. Good to hear.
Wikipedia needs to update their Jeff City page. So if you're in Jeff City and you can update the data, because they have top employers back to it, but it's 2016. They still have Hitachi as ABB.
Oh, wow.
So, but it does show Unilever as number 10. I think some of those, and they're behind like JCMG, Walmart, Hitachi, Central Bank, but definitely a huge deal in Jefferson City, and I suspect some of those have moved around a bit on that list.
Wow,
yeah, and somebody, one of our first responders described the product, this liquid IV.
Yes.
He had a good line. He called it Pedialyte for grown-ups.
That's exactly right.
Oh, yes. My my firefighter is very familiar with the product as well.
It's a good product and obviously growing in popularity. And yeah, Stephanie, those numbers have, I'm sure, been tweaked. Luke Holtschneider, we got to give him a shout out because Luke was Luke, he was the deputy director, worked with Rob Dixon, and he moved. I think it was a wonderful move for him. He had an opportunity to take over to the Jeff City Chamber, Jeff City, economic development, essentially, if you will, and it's a big deal. But yes, that's I have a feeling those numbers are a little bit off.
Well, the gang
on Wikipedia.
The gang's all here. We're glad you're into. The text line is going crazy.
What are they saying?
Well, about the GOP and Haley supporters, and so a lot of people are wondering.
seek re-election. Democrats are happy because it was set to be a three-way race in Arizona, and now it will just be a two-way race, giving them a better shot.
Sorry, a three-way race and Kirsten Sinema makes some of us laugh.
Was she a sore loser? She was the one part. It was her and a Republican that John Thune, I think, that crafted the failed border bill, right? So she's just a sore loser?
I mean, there's been a lot of speculation. The polls are all over, and I mean, a lot of people have been deciding they're out. I mean, and so she is out, but kind of, I still think a surprise to a lot of people, especially with the timing yesterday. Of course, it was Super Tuesday, although Trump can't claim a clean sweep because Nikki took the swamp in Vermont. Neither can Biden, because apparently American Samoa chose Jason Palmer. And if you're asking yourself, who is Jason Palmer? You would not be alone. I have no idea. I have not Googled the guy. He is not going anywhere, but apparently qualified for the ballot in, I think, more than like a dozen states. And apparently, and then there were some other states that have that kind of uncommitted vote. And of course, Biden saw more uncommitteds than I think the Biden camp would have liked to see yesterday. But still, I don't think I think that Samoa vote was probably, and even Vermont, that was kind of a surprise to me. But overall, I think it really doesn't matter.
That was a crossover caucus, though, right? Or primary, right, in Vermont.
And if you missed our breaking news sounder earlier, we got word this morning that Nikki Haley is going to officially drop out of the race. It is speculated that she will not endorse President Trump today. Whether or not she will do so at some time in the future, still up in the air. But now Trump is just 200 delegates shy of securing the nomination. So,
it's a done deal.
I mean,
does next week seal the deal, or shortly thereafter?
I think we're really close. Yeah. At the same time, we did get some updates in other states as far as primaries go. Adam Schiff, they had a jungle primary in California, and Adam Schiff and Steve Garvey advance into a runoff election. It's going to be Schiff.
Longtime star of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Steve Garvey. So it's good to see at least he's making some headway. The Republican cause out in California, it's good to see.
The other thing that we got an update out of Congress yesterday, Bob Menendez was charged on Tuesday with obstruction of justice in his bribery investigation.
Wow.
So we didn't hear a whole lot about that. And maybe that's why they're helping him out, dropping that on
Does that mean
Tuesday.
There were some gold bars in the kitchen cabinet or something?
He's still claiming innocence, but I'm also thinking, why is it taking so long?
I don't get it.
I don't either. I mean, the fact that you could just be that blatant doesn't make any sense to me. So, I mean, from here on out, I guess now we're just waiting for the VP pick, and I think the speculation will really start to pick up now that Trump has basically secured the nom.
Do you remember this guy in North Carolina?
Here's something else I'm not supposed to say. Ain't but two genders. Two genders. Ain't nothing but men and women.
Mark Robinson, North Carolina, wins the Republican primary. This
remember my dad had
Yeah.
a red plaid tux jacket.
I keep thinking like Les Nessman on, KWOP. Okay, so my daughter Sammy does a lot. She's got a lot of followers on Instagram and stuff.
She's beautiful.
Beautiful girl. She gets her mom's good looks, and that's true. And so they were having fun doing makeup the other night.
Yeah.
I hope my wife's not listening because I'm telling a behind the scenes story here. I just get a kick out of, John, I don't know, do you get a kick out of the way girls talk about girl things and about the thing? So, and the guys out there will know, and the gals are probably giggling as we talk. So, on the way home from the event, they look spectacular. I always love to be with the girls in my life. They look beautiful, and I'm proud of them. And Helene said, I have to start doing my eyebrows differently. Because Sammy said, Mom, you can't do your eyebrows like male gametes. You can't do them with the tails. You can't have a thin little tail out to the side. You have to have more of a straight. Is this true about?
I think you got to have the eyebrows that fit your face. But yes, there's been a big change.
A big trend in eyebrow fashion. So I thought we would discuss eyebrow fashion a little bit, just because I don't spend a lot of time looking at eyebrows.
Well, you should, because they can really change the look of your face.
Yes.
Except for Governor DeSantis' wife for a while. I mean, she was taking some hits for unibrow.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie, you were more aware of eyebrows than I was in the early 2000s.
We used to pluck them into a tiny little line.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And now,
but a little heavier towards the nose and a little tail out there. So
and now
you're
supposed to have like a fluffier brow all the way around.
That's it.
And then around the 2010s, the really bold, really sharp eyebrow was in. It kind of like an upside down Nike swoosh.
It was almost like a stamp on your face. It was dip brow or like stenciling.
Yeah. And now it's very much like brow lamination has been a thing, microblading,
spikier and fluffier.
Yeah.
The only thing I know about brows is once in a while I get one hair that gets out of control. It's like an inch and a half long. And my wife says, can you not see that? And she's plucking it away. I'm like, I don't know. I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff.
I mean, you would think now you would think this conversation has nothing to do with politics, but do you recall it was Ron Paul who was, I think, in a debate, and he, I think, had lost his eyebrows and somehow had like an eyebrow toupee glued on. And in the debate, it just started like a woolly worm. Started.
Oh my gosh.
We'll have to find the video. Started like creeping down his face, and it was all anyone. I mean, I remember it very clearly. So men, if you're gonna get an eyebrow toupee, make sure the glue's really good.
I do remember Donald Trump making a lot of fun out of Rand Paul's hair. Remember that during the debate? Yeah.
Or maybe, as you're picking out your eyebrow toupee, maybe you just shouldn't. Maybe that's the correct answer.
People are getting eyebrow tattoos, I understand.
Yeah, Stephanie, you do.
I have them, yeah.
Really? I wouldn't know that.
Exactly.
I asked my husband, did you ever think you'd be married to a gal with face tats?
Well, how do you get hair? But it looks,
All right,
I see hair. I see hair.
It's
I see
underneath.
texture.
Yeah, it's underneath.
Oh, okay.
They take a very thin scalpel with ink, and they do very thin hair-like strokes.
Really?
Yeah.
Very, very nice. Well, that's good. Well, I want to do some combination woke busting and get to something we talked yesterday about. You asked the question, okay, with this budget bill that's coming up that they're going to be voting on, what kind of pork is in there? Remember Tom Coburn, the now deceased Oklahoma senator? He was famous for that. Every year he would come out with shrimps on treadmills and, experiments with, how far can you drop a Stanley Cup before it drops, stuff like that.
Yeah,
okay.
I saw some criticism yesterday because I know there's some money in there for the conventions for security.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's important.
I don't think so. I don't know. I think they should pay for their own security. I mean, it's important, but they should pay. Okay. The Senate Appropriations Committee released their spending bill, which is supposed to be voted on, I think, today, if I'm not mistaken. And it includes, are you ready for this? $1 million of your tax dollars requested by Senator Bob Casey and Senator Fetterman of Pennsylvania for a place called the William Gay Center. Now, you'll say, well, that doesn't sound bad. It's probably a famous guy named William Gay is a community center. William Way. I'm sorry, Freudian slip. William Way Center. It's the William Way LGBT Community Center. This is for renovations and expansion project. Now, you'll say, well, that's okay. We're diverse. We want to support, I still have a problem. Why are my tax dollars going to Washington, D.C. to support something in Pennsylvania? Let Philadelphia support that. Let Jason Kelsey, he's got enough money. Let him support that. If he wants to donate. Okay. Do you know what they do at the William Way Community Center the first Saturday of every month?
Tell me. Be a drag show.
Oh, no. It's better than that. It's better than that. What they do is something called the Aviary, where you can play all day. And the Aviary is basically an improvisational interactive theater night focusing on ontological deconstruction of the political theory concepts of contract and domination. This is about a sadomasochistic. You have to keep your anus and your genitals covered. I mean, this is the most base, disturbing activity going on. It's bondage, the whole thing. This is $1 million
and our government
to support the
it?
William Way Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you don't get fired up about this, there's something wrong with you. This is not right. Does anyone think this is right? This is emblematic of what's wrong with America.
No,
what in the world are Americans' tax dollars in these United States of America? What are tax dollars doing going to support the Aviary? The dungeon monitor's word is final.
There's a dungeon monitor?
Bodily fluids must not leave the body.
Let's be careful about what we're going to read on air.
I know what I'm reading on air. I've read this. What I'm saying, no, it needs to be read.
Yeah, no,
This is disturbing.
How much money?
The Department of Housing and Urban Development is going to give $1 million to the William Way LGBTQ Center, which is going to sponsor the first Saturday of every month a bondage and S&M night. I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Building dungeons is expensive, Randy. Apparently.
I mean, I'm sorry. I was troubled. I was troubled by this. I was very troubled by this. It's not even funny. It's sad. It's tragic.
It's so sad. It's funny.
And if I was Bob Casey's opponent, I think he's up this election. I don't know, but I know Fetterman obviously isn't. Man, I'd be hammering this. This would be on every.
But are you honestly surprised? Because like I said yesterday, every time they put out one of these budget bills, they're supposed to review every item in 1,000 pages in 5 days. And, we always find these like insane spends.
Now, having said that,
and you're what if you put $1 million back into the pockets of people who are, hardworking small business owners who will generate jobs with that money, or, even give some relief. I would even
watch out.
Offer that money up for maybe some relief for college students over stuff
wait a minute. Wait a minute. We're not going there. Wait a minute.
Stuff like that, though. I mean, at least they're doing something with their money. Come on.
Stephanie just advocated
that's
for
going
student loan forgiveness.
I'm just saying, if I'm going to lose $100,000 to dungeons or student loans.
You talk about political pork. Think back to, what was it? Early 2000s, and Ted Stevens up in Alaska with the bridge to nowhere.
Yes.
And that was the deal where they wanted to build the bridge out to some island, and it was like $200 million or something that they were assigned to that, and that's kind of the catchphrase now for political pork.
Well, it's just, we can't have this. This is not tolerable. And again, I don't care as long as people aren't hurting one another and it's consensual. Look, what they do in their own home I don't really care.
On their own dollar.
That's on their own buck. That's not what this is about. Well, sort of. I mean, but I think that why are people, this is clearly aberrant fringe behavior. It doesn't need to be treated. Look, I just think that there's no place for this. And this is just one of there's 300 pages of line items in here. And you start going through this and you look and you go, oh my goodness, we're in trouble. I don't know if we can reel this back in. One after another. Okay, I got that off my chest. When we come back, I got another one for you. You think your EV is saving the planet? Think again. We'll have that. And by the way, if you're just joining us, breaking news. there.
Yeah, on my way in, it was real thick. I had to slow down quite a bit.
Mine was
So-
patchy. Some places were good and others weren't.
Yeah, normally if I'm going to encounter fog, it's going to be in Jefferson City.
Yeah, right around the bridge usually.
Yeah, but
There's a metaphor there,
I didn't
Go
really
ahead.
hit any fog this morning until Ashland. So, 63 between Ashland and Columbia was pretty bad.
Sam says plaid happens to be my favorite color. If you want to join in on the fun and festivities.
No one's wearing plaid today. There, look at you. baby.
573-874-9390.
Oh, she is though. There's a gal wearing plaid.
Well, gals can wear plaid.
Okay.
Randy's rules for fashion.
This is what
I'm a people
we do
watcher.
every morning.
I'm
okay?
a people watcher. I like to watch people. I think it's fun.
Randy has very strong opinions on how people look. So
No.
just know if you ever encounter him out in public, he's
it's-
probably judging you.
No, it's not judging. It's commenting. It's observing. It's observing.
We are.
And
We're going to
judging.
put you on like the door with a mic next time we go to one of these events, and you
Red
can,
carpet
Yes.
analysis.
And
I'm
if you'll
telling you.
notice, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, George Bush, Bill Clinton,
all have bad fashion.
all taller men,
Yeah.
bigger guys. Countenance matters. The other
I mean,
thing,
have you seen Eric Schmidt? Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
So-
Bush was a tall guy?
Okay, here's the
Not
other
really.
thing. If you see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to defend. This is not judgmentalism. I'm an observer. I scan the world and I bring it to you in full Technicolor. There was a study done once as to people who are chosen and who are successful on TV and who are TV anchors, Hollywood stars, and it has to do with the angle of the jaw and the pointedness of the chin. So, for instance, I have a face for radio because I have a very rounded, face. Okay, but now, Stephanie, you have a nice pointed. You got that. See,
I have
you
a pointy
look
face?
at. See, not pointed, but you know what I mean. An angular jaw and in general, if you look at that, the people that are like the hot guys that the gals all swoon over, they all got that cut jaw, wide angle jaw, and the cut. I'm telling you, this is a scientific study. When they show people, and the women, they ask women on men. Take a look at a bunch of guys with different faces. And a common theme is that sort of a pointed jaw. And you start looking at it
Well,
and
and
you'll see what I
there's
mean.
bigger studies out there that just like prettier people do
Yeah.
better. They get promoted and they
There
get
you
on
go.
TV, and they like in sales, like looks matter a lot.
Which is why those of us who have a face for radio have to claw and scratch for everything we have. Right,
Oh.
John?
And then the live video feed really threw us
Thanks,
for
Doc.
a loop, right?
No,
Well,
John.
what about tall people? Look at
yeah.
the presidents, Abe Lincoln and
Yeah.
guys like that are what, 6'3",
Size
6'4"?
matters. I'm telling you.
Oh, Randy.
But on the
Yes,
women's
if you're
side,
Bill Clinton.
but I mean,
Oh,
on
He was tall.
but on the women's side, we've seen that as well. You've got people like Kristi Noem, and a lot of the very popular women politicians are beautiful.
She's not very good. John, you don't think Kristi Noem's very good looking, do you?
You already started a fight on the texter yesterday, and if you want to be wrong, that's a good take.
No, she's a very attractive woman. So is Tulsi Gabbard. And her name's being floated for this VP thing. Now now that Nikki Haley is out of the race, the talk is going to be what is the timing and who is the person that Donald Trump will pick.
So do you have a favorite?
Well, one of the texters had an interesting thing. Said, if it ain't a girl, if it ain't dark melanin, it ain't going to be a success. And Candace Owens was tossed up by this person. So interesting.
That would be a disaster.
I think it'd be a disaster. She's too alienating. She's too polarizing.
Yeah.
Kristi Noem, they keep cycling back to her.
Yeah. Talking about diversity, she's a plumber. She's an electrician. She's a dentist. I mean, she's everything, right? She hunts.
We saw her speak at Lincoln Days in Kansas City, and I think if I was keeping a tally of how many times she mentioned Trump or being in the room with Trump or talking to Trump, it was probably 10 or more. Yeah. So she's working hard for it, and she said basically Trump told her she needed to come to Missouri.
Does she seem authentic in person?
In person, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she tells a good story, and I thought about her family, and yeah, she seemed nice.
Yeah. That's what was cool about the Lincoln Days. And I hope that all of you, when you get out and go out and see candidates, press the flesh, talk to them, you can get a sense of whether someone is contrived or authentic, right? And whether they're, someone that you can have a beer over the fence with, mowing the grass. That's the kind of politician I want. And Cindy O'Loughlin has that quality. She's able to be a very personable person.
She's great.
Strong as steel, but a very disarming and in a very natural way. I know Cindy. She was my state senator. She's not a control. Haley will be dropping out of the race in case you're catching up on things. Super Tuesday wrapped up yesterday, and wasn't a clean sweep for Donald Trump. Haley won Vermont.
Pretty close.
An open primary.
Yeah.
And
but it wasn't a clean sweep for Joe Biden either.
No. Because
go American Samoa.
Jason Palmer, was that it?
I think that's his name.
Now, we had a discussion about Samoa, too. And we've decided that Samoa is a Girl Scout cookie, right?
I mean, yes.
I love Samoa. Do they still make those?
Yes.
And they're still the best.
They are the best. The chewy, coconutty, caramely Samoans. They are the best cookies. John, you have an opinion on these?
Sure. Got some?
I'm
kind of a Thin Mint guy, you know?
Oh,
same. You put the Thin Mints in the freezer.
Yeah.
Top tier.
Isn't that interesting? I've never been a Thin Mint guy. Yeah, I don't like it. But you like the Thin Mint? Do you like the mint chocolate chip ice cream too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
John?
the lemonades are my next favorite.
Ugh.
The what?
The lemonades.
What are those?
It's kind of like a citrus flavored shortbread cookie.
Lemon dessert is disgusting.
You like carrot cake, so your opinion on dessert is invalid.
Remember, it used to the Girl Scout cookies used to be really first quality, and you didn't mind overpaying for them because it was for a good cause.
Because overpaying was like $2 a box. Now they're like $17.
But then remember, they switched to a different company. Then remember. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm making an opinion here. Excuse me for being judgmental. I didn't think that
Randy,
the girls,
need to let it go.
The ladies are getting on me, John, because I make comments. I analyze things I see, and I just make a comment like, "Wow, what do you think of that plaid jacket? It sort of stands out at you."
Those are not the types of statements that you make. It's, oh my God, look at that plaid jacket. That is terrible. I don't know why anyone would wear that.
Well, it's an opinion. I'm supposed to have an opinion. What's wrong with an opinion? This is an opinion show.
You put a very flowery spin on what you say.
Okay, but then I reminded them.
I think you say out loud what a lot of people think inside their head.
Yes.
But and that's not a negative to you. I think like a lot of people will not say those things
I'm
out
authentic.
loud.
I'm sorry. What you see is what you get.
What you're saying, a lot of people think. And I think and as we, approach this, especially with regard to politics and in that VP pick, I think looks are mattering more and more in politics. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing.
Yeah,
but
I
think
celebrity. It's celebrity.
Oh, we're getting fact checked on our Girl Scout cookies.
Uh-oh.
I think there's a certain care and attention to detail and respect that you have for oneself to take care of one's appearance. That demonstrates attention to detail and respect for things in other areas.
People are more or less blessed with raw beauty, and raw attractiveness. But that's not, I don't think, what I. The only thing that bothers me is when people are disheveled and they don't have hygiene and they don't take care of themselves. It's disrespectful to yourself.
Or they're wearing a plaid jacket.
No,
cycle back to the politics of it. JFK and Richard Nixon. That was all about a looks thing. What they say, the thought was that Nixon won if you listened to the debate on the radio, and Kennedy ran away with it if you watched it on TV.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that was a difference maker, right? I mean, all of the political scientists say that was a difference maker. And again, it's just about, it's a Christian ethic. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I tend to follow that ethic. I read the good book. The body is your temple, and you should take good care of it. You're given a body, you should take care of it. Externally do you know the largest organ in the body?
Skin.
Yep. So therefore, you should take care of it,
I'm being fact-checked. Girl Scout cookies are not actually $17 a box. I was actually exaggerating. Apparently, they're $6. And also, they have renamed the Samoa to the Caramel Delight. FYI.
Isn't that politically correct?
I also really enjoy Cindy's text, 874-9390. Cindy said, "Did Stephanie just yuck someone's yum?"
Okay.
And yes, Cindy, she did.
My kids call me out on that all the time. And that's what they get told at school. Don't yuck someone else's yum.
What does that mean?
It means if someone else likes broccoli and is like, it's the best, and you're like, ew, yuck.
It's like different strokes for different folks.
Of all of the things that my wife and I advise people to try to think of in terms of dropping some of the starchy white and adopting another white in your nutrition plan, that other white being cauliflower, that is the one. Oh, look at it. Look, she just yucked the yum again.
I actually like cauliflower.
Make pizza crusts out of it now.
Yeah, it's great. Okay. I got to straighten things up here, guys. We got to get serious.
We get a text from Jack real quick before we get serious.
Yeah.
He said, I have a friend like Randy. We have to remind her, quieter into yourself.
Indoor voice.
I'm going to use that one.
Okay, but now wait a minute. To the person that just said that,
Jack.
I think it cuts both ways. I'm also the guy who, damn the sexual harassment and political. There was a woman last night that had a stunning, beautiful yellow and black striped dress on. It was a beautiful dress. I said, wow, what a stunning dress. That's beautiful. And usually, these days, I will often, and I'm serious about it, I will say, hey, where did you get that? I would like to get that for my wife. It's a beautiful dress. Because
Mizzou Tiger Team Store.
Huh?
Yeah.
So I reminded the ladies, okay, if you're going to be that way about my negative judgmentalism, see if I compliment you the next time you look gorgeous. Okay, I'm not going to do it. It cuts both ways. You're beautiful, or plaid jacket, not so much. Yeah.
Oh, we've uncovered a Girl Scout cookie conspiracy. Listener Lindy says that the name of the cookies depends on where you live. And so some areas are going to have Samoas, and some areas are going to have the Caramel Delights.
Why?
And we actually...
Why would that matter, where you live?
There's two different companies that bake the cookies.
Oh.
And listener Ben actually accidentally confirmed this. He sent a picture of a box of Girl Scout cookies, which he said he paid $6 for, and it says Samoas.
Okay, well, let's talk about electric vehicles. Did you know, for you greenies out there that think you're going to save the planet by buying your Tesla?
And by doing grass-fed beef.
EVs weigh 30% more than gas cars. That causes tires to wear out faster and brakes to emit more particulate matter when you stop the car. They may release more pollution than gas-fired vehicles, according to a report that was recently resurfaced. This didn't get much play in 2022 when it came out. But they found that brakes and tires release 1,850 times more particulate matter compared to modern tailpipes, which have filters that reduce emissions. And since EVs weigh more, that directly impacts the shedding of this particulate matter, which gets into your lungs. Oh, think about it.
Harder on the roads, too.
You got brake stuff coming into your lungs. You got the tire detritus. Good word, Brian. Good word for your next report.
Detritus.
Coming into your lungs. So all of you people who think that the EVs are the salvation of the planet, think again. It's just not true.
And the price, it's just not at a good price point either. I mean, that for me, if they were cheap or they were affordable, I would think about it. But right now, most of the nicer EVs are astronomically expensive compared to other vehicles.
It also generates more CO2 when charging your vehicle. EV batteries weigh 1,000 pounds, can result in tire emissions that are nearly 400 times more than tailpipe emissions. So there you go.
You know, it is interesting, and again, ultimately it's going to be up to the consumer. If they want to buy that, they're certainly welcome to do it. I really question how many of these charging stations we have. I mean, I don't see that many around, but to Stephanie's point about the cost, and let's just give the number for Columbia because the number is going to be similar across. The average price, median price of a home in Columbia right now hit a record $410,000. Chris Jones, to her credit, a progressive activist in town, actually brought the issue up to the council, how expensive houses are getting. So let's just say you're going to buy a house in Columbia right now. The average house is costing $410,000. I question our listeners. How many of you can afford a $410,000 house?
That's average, though.
What's the payment on that?
That's the average.
What's the median price?
What's
the
average,
median
that's
price?
Right there. It's 405.
It's the same?
It's 405 to 410,000. We've reported on that. It's the details.
Not a big difference.
Those
Okay.
numbers come directly from the Columbia Board of Realtors. It's a record in January.
What's driving that? Do we know?
Depends on who you talk to. Some will blame the president. Others will blame the city of Columbia for what they're doing in terms of housing. But Stephanie, your point is very, very well taken. Let's say somebody's got to buy a house, $410,000. How much are one of these EV vehicles? You said they're expensive. I don't know what the cost is right now. And where do you charge the thing?
A 20% down payment is $80,000.
What?
Is that right?
Yeah,
On a $400,000
that's
house.
right.
And then they said you need in order to afford that at 20% down with a 6.5 interest rate, if you're lucky, and a 30-year mortgage, you would need a gross monthly income of $7,786.
Only Hauswirth and Marsh could afford that.
There
you
you
go.
go. It is. And I encourage people to go. These numbers are, Randy, they come directly from the Columbia Board of Realtors. We have confirmed that. Brian Toohey has talked to us. I've talked to Ed Scavone. Ed Scavone is the president of Central Bank of Boone County. He listens to the show all the time. Mm-hmm. He said on air, he's told me this too, it used to be that Columbia's housing prices were cheaper than St. Louis and Kansas City. They are not. If folks want to question, are these numbers accurate? Take a look, 939theeagle.com and KWS.com. I've linked to the interviews we've done. And the number, the median sales price was $375.
That's a big difference.
The home price in Columbia average is $410. Okay. They're very, very close.
But 50% of the homes cost less than $375.
But that's a record high.
So, but don't worry. Barbara Buffalo and the city council have a plan for reducing home prices here.
They do.
They've already initiated that. It's called defunding the police. I mean, the reason people have come to Columbia, when we moved here, we were scanning. I'm sorry, that's what I do. Mm-hmm. We were scanning and surveying all of the best places to live, best places to retire, best places to be, best, always in the top 20, 25. But they always said pros and cons. You know, they always have the comments, little looming problems. Law and order, safety. I'm telling you, that mountain has peaked if you don't maintain public safety. Because think about it. Why would people stay in Kansas City or St. Louis with their rampant crime when you previously and still have a fairly safe community here in Columbia and mid-Missouri? But if that changes, I think you'll see house prices plummet.
And some of our people, our Facebook page basically melted when I put this story up, 93.9 The Eagle Facebook. People really, they had a lot of different thoughts, but several people made one point, Randy, and they basically said, yes, they confirmed. They've said this. These are prices they're dealing with. But several people said that they're building them because people will buy them, and they are. And then I also see a ton of growth in Ashland. There's houses going up everywhere in Ashland.
Well, and there was some news yesterday, I guess. I think this was yesterday. But speaking of high prices, Boone County, I think that's why we're seeing this push to vote on these property tax issues, the property tax freeze. And people are going to, I think there's a lot of people out there who are looking at the prices of homes, they're looking at inflation and saying, we got to do something about these rising costs. And property tax is one area that they've kind of gotten some authority that maybe the people can have a voice there.
And Chris Jones made that point to the council. They're looking to build 6 affordable homes. That came up at the council, but she's basically saying these prices have gone up.
Well,
houses 20 years ago that were costing $100,000, Chris said are costing $300 to $400.
But ask your builders too about regulatory burdens too.
And they've said that.
That's a big deal.
They
right?
have.
Well, and I know when
cost of supplies.
When we were out at the caucuses, they were collecting signatures like crazy for the Boone County property tax freeze.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy.
Average price, Kelley Blue Book says, of an electric car in 2023, $53,469 compared to gas vehicles at $48,000.
Okay. Yep, there you go. I mean, can you imagine that? Just a few years ago, it was like, for somewhere in the teens, you could get a used car. Mm-hmm. Forget about
awkward.
I'm
That's
sorry.
weird.
We got carried away in the previous discussion, but now it's your turn. What's going on?
Is Ranty Tobler exiting the building?
Someone said bring it on, Ranty Tobler, so someone enjoys the rant. I don't know.
Well, spring break season is upon us. I don't think anyone on the show has any PTO scheduled soon to go on spring break. Stephanie?
I do.
Oh, well.
Oh, boy.
I take that back. I hope you're not going to Florida.
Nope, I'm going skiing.
Oh. For spring break? That seems like an oxymoron. But
Really?
our good bud, Ron DeSantis.
Protect your knees. Don't blow out a knee.
Okay.
Okay, Ron DeSantis.
Okay,
Well,
Uncle Randy.
I'm just
Yeah.
worried. Well, I'm looking out for your medical wellness. That's okay. Go ahead.
So our good bud, Ron DeSantis, of course, we're talking about people who have dropped out of the presidential race, and Nikki Haley's going to be adding her name to that list later today. Ron DeSantis is making headlines because he's cracking down on spring breakers, and he has deployed or dispatched, whatever you want to call it, almost 150 state troopers, along with drones and license plate readers. He's sending them to popular spring break towns. It's like Miami, PCB. Those are the two big ones that I think of.
Ron DeSantis is a party pooper.
Yes.
Oh, come on.
No, Ron
And so
DeSantis is helping keep the beaches safe for people who would like to enjoy safe beaches.
Party pooper. Florida spring break is like a
John, where is the decency?
staple. I
Where
never
is the
participated in it, but
Ron is calling his efforts, quote, unprecedented.
Yes.
I don't see the words party pooper listed anywhere in this Fox News article, but
Lake Ozark, now is our chance. I would capitalize on this and be like, we don't have any rules here. You saw us during COVID. Let's go.
yeah, so I'm curious to see. I feel like sometimes an increased police presence makes like people nervous and act out more. Maybe not. I know that's kind of the opposite desired effect.
Why would it do that? I thought it would make people straighten up and fly right.
You would think,
Yeah.
right? But
But when you're under the influence, you can do crazy things.
Yeah, I don't
people
know
don't
if
do that on spring break.
I'm not sure if his putting all that stuff in place is going to affect the crowds in Daytona Beach and places like
Does
that.
anyone
Yeah.
have a problem with it being normalized that young people can go out and
passes
I'm
the
looking at the
Randy
fashion.
test of approval.
There you go.
All right.
Hannah, hanging out there in the control room after another busy night at the social event last night.
Yeah, juggling phone lines, you know.
John Marsh, always covering the JC beat.
Here, sir.
And the center of attraction last night, the first stateswoman of the year to be honored at the event that Scott Fawn hosted, did a fabulous job. The room was absolutely packed. The various commenters and speakers were just so celebrating her leadership. She joins us now. Senate Majority Floor Leader Cindy O'Loughlin. Welcome to the program, and congratulations again, Cindy.
Thank you, Randy. I really appreciate your kind words, and I'm sorry I hung up on you on the first call.
Oh, no. Hey, I have to tell you, to hear John Rizzo, I mean, people on the other side of the aisle commenting and complimenting you. And I mean, these were heartfelt comments. And for you to receive those kind of comments from folks on your side and the other side in this season of very difficult management, given the infighting that's gone on in the GOP side, you're to be commended for that. And I think everyone in attendance was truly heartily celebrating the great job you've done.
Well, I believe that people are looking for people in leadership who are able to sit down and talk with anyone, listen to anyone. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with every opinion or stance that people take, but you do need to be able to have a cordial conversation and respect each other.
Yeah.
So, KJ is just a great guy and a superb politician, far better than I am, but he's also a friend.
Well, I think people are, as I was talking with various people, from Ron Fitzwater to Lincoln Huff to Rudy Vietz to everyone I was talking with there, the theme that commonly came up, and I think you've really, I know Cindy O'Loughlin from way back when you were my state senator. You don't make it up. That's the way you are. But people are looking for authenticity. People are tired of the contrived spin. Am I really getting what they believe? Should I believe what I see? And I think that's the magic. How to thread the needle this election cycle is authenticity and honesty. Because as long as people respect you, it doesn't matter if they disagree with you, and you have an enormous amount of respect.
Well, I totally agree with you. I think, and I've never been good at double speak anyway, but I just think when people talk with you about different things that are important to them and they're looking to see how you feel about it, if you just let people know where you are with a certain topic and they know that they can count on that unless something dramatically changes, in which case you go back and let them know that. I mean, that's really all they're asking for, someone to tell them the truth.
Now, you guys are on the clock. I think you've got 6 legislative days left, counting today, before spring break. Is there a punch list? Do you have, in your own mind, is there stuff that you want to check off before spring break hits?
Yes, we're probably going to an education bill today, and it's a pretty sizable piece of legislation. So we'll be talking about that today. And on another note, I'm working on the landfill controversy and trying to work with everybody and come up with a solution that's, agreeable to everyone, which I believe there is a solution. So those are a couple of things that are important, to me and I think to the caucus.
We're talking with the Majority Floor Leader in the Missouri Senate, Cindy O'Loughlin, here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning.
Senator, when we talked to you that very first week of session, you were dealing with the Freedom Caucus and all with the very first filibuster coming down the pike. You talked to us about grandstanding then, and you said not really that much different than the average year at the State House. You still fixed on that right now?
Well, there's always going to be some degree of filibuster, here and there, sometimes longer than you would than you would expect. I think the Freedom Caucus, many of the members are running for another office, and it's one way to try to set themselves apart from everyone else. It is not a method that I would advise. I don't think it's a successful way of presenting yourself to the voters, but, I'm not a political expert, so I could be wrong about that. I mean, again, I think people are looking for people who deal in good faith, who can find common ground and get things done. There are some people, both on the right and on the left, who absolutely despise any form of compromise. I mean, I've been called a rhino many times for working with other people, but that's just nonsensical, because I can't go into the Senate and say, I have a perfect solution here, and I want you all to vote for it, and everybody just votes for it. But that's not the way governing works. You have to be able to govern.
State Senator Cindy O'Loughlin, who is our Senate Majority Leader, is our guest here on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 950 KWS. I just point out the Senate is going to convene today at 1 o'clock this afternoon, a little bit later than normal. Senator, if you look at the media coverage of what's happening in Jefferson City in terms of what's happening at the Capitol for the last several days, the news media coverage, and it's not just the Capitol Press Corps, but statewide. If you notice the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, I'm talking all the TV stations, the coverage has been primarily about Governor Parsons' commutation of Britt Reid's sentence. It is getting a ton of media coverage across the state. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, he's the governor, and he has the ability to make whatever decision he wants to in that regard. And I'm not going to second-guess him or try to, say that I would have done something different. I know it's a controversial call. I've read about that, too. Mm-hmm. And I'd say that when he makes a decision, he's prepared to deal with the ramifications of it.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, if I can ask you one more question to follow up on the education reform deal, I think a lot of folks have been disappointed that in Missouri with supermajorities, there hasn't been a more accelerated pace of movement towards a true educational choice along the lines of Arizona, Iowa, and can you address that issue? Because I hear it a lot, and I share some of those sentiments, recognizing, as one texter said yesterday, I have a child who has very special needs, and I really appreciate the public schools and their resources for that. But I have another child that I absolutely would like to have more educational choice to do with my money and send my kid to where I want to go, where we want to send him. Where can we take this?
And I agree with that sentiment entirely. I think that parents do want to be involved in their children's education. We all know, I think, that there are some schools who are very activist in nature and yet not achieving reading and math results that they should be achieving. So, like I tell everyone, you have to have 18 votes to pass anything in the Senate, and we've always been pretty darn close to those 18 votes, and I'm hopeful that we get that done. The bill does include expanding ESA statewide, which would give people the ability to send their children to an alternate school. My biggest problem with the public school system, and I am not an enemy of theirs, though some of them think I am, is that they have allowed some schools to do things that really should not be happening. And Columbia is a great example of that. Things that parents really disagree with, indoctrination, that kind of thing. And parents should not be forced to subsidize that kind of thing and have that, instilled in their children. So, and this happens a lot of times in the bigger schools, but it's also filtering into the smaller schools. So the only way that public education changes enough to be a good solution for all children is if there is some form of competition. because as long as you are locked into a district by your zip code, they have no incentive to actually address problems. And I have talked to many schools, many administrators, and voiced that, asking them to police their own, which they will not do. And I would remind people that the education lobby in Jefferson City is the largest lobby. It is massive and many times focuses on rural representatives and senators, telling them, if you vote for any form of choice, you won't get reelected. Well, I beg to differ, because I campaigned on that my first election and got reelected overwhelmingly. So I think parents understand that there are some children who would opt to go somewhere else, and that would be better for them. So I hope we get it done.
I do too, and I just hope that any of your colleagues that are listening would hear that there's a lot of frustration out of here, that while the sentiment you just expressed, I think, is shared by a vast swath of not only Republicans and conservatives, but I think center-right citizens as well. Frustration that that's not being translated into action. But we look forward to seeing how that unfolds.
I think that, people who are elected sometimes forget to remain in touch with the actual people in their district. And so if they just listen to the education lobby, it kind of works on their mind. But they need to talk to parents. Yeah. They need to get into their district and talk to parents. And once you do that, you understand that there are just some people who would like to send their children somewhere else, and they should have that ability.
Yeah, you're right. Final question. Of course, we're talking with Senator Cindy O'Loughlin, who was honored last night as the first Stateswoman of the Year at Scott Fawn's event, supporting women, the Women's Leadership Fund for the GOP. Would you like to rebut one of the speakers who was honoring you last night that said that you have the second toughest job in Jefferson City as a woman, second only to Lincoln Huff's hairdresser? Would you like to rebut that?
Lincoln always looks picture perfect. he does have a good hairdresser.
And Cindy, you know me, I'm envious of anyone that has any hair, much less when it looks like Lincoln's.
Yes.
Hey, well, thank you for all you do, and it was really great to see you honored for all of the tough and heavy lifting that you've done in a tough political season in Jefferson City. Thanks so much, and congratulations again.
On.
Okay, take care.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun last night, and
it sounds like it. I missed some of the speeches. We had our alderman.
for troubles. I know the rest of that story.
So were
Mapache.
were those masked raccoons from Antifa, or were they COVID believers? I mean,
They did not specify. It's a good question. Maybe their mascara ran like Hannah's did.
there you go.
Mine didn't so much run; it just transferred to the bottom of my eyelid, so I looked like a raccoon.
There's a glut of raccoons. You talk to the conservation people, and I know all the hunters and out there. I guess because the cost of or the price being paid for raccoon pelts is down, people aren't trapping them, and really.
Yeah, boy.
Well, that has an impact on the turkey and the quail population as well. Turkey's down. Turkey season coming up, by the way. Stephanie, will you be turkey hunting? You want to come out to the blind with me? We'll go turkey hunting.
I'm going to need a new outfit. I don't have a hunting outfit, but I could probably get a cute one, I'm sure.
Well, you had a camo cap on yesterday. It's a start.
I do have camouflage. Yeah.
I have a whole closet of
That's like good. Real tree camo is what that hat was.
Well, Helene's got stuff. I've got some camo for her. She doesn't like to go hunting. If you want to go hunting, we can do that.
I thought I was supposed to wear orange.
No,
just need-
that's
you
oh
just-
my God. Okay, we got some education to do here. No.
Well,
the
Stephanie
turkey
did.
you don't wear orange. The deer you wear orange.
Yes, Stephanie did tick off all the deer hunters about 2 years ago, so we need to proceed with caution here, okay?
Yeah.
What did you do? How did you tick off the deer hunter?
Called the deer stupid.
They
Basically,
are stupid.
insinuating it didn't take a lot of skill to shoot them.
Because there's so many of them and they're so stupid. They just run into the side of your car.
You know what we're not talking about enough, though, when it comes to wildlife population currently? Montauk County has a skunk problem.
Oh,
I
really?
haven't seen...
Skunks are out thick right now. Too.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have not seen anyone talking about this. There are more dead skunks on the side of the road right now in Montauk County than I
Well, that's a staff member from 2021 at an airport where illegals were being dropped off. And now there is bombshell new information that the Center for Immigration Studies has uncovered. Todd Bensman down there. And joining us is Mark Krikorian, the executive director of CIS. Mark Krikorian, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. And this is just blowing up all over the Twitter. This hundreds of thousands of people that don't even have to cross the Rio Grande. Mark?
Exactly. This is a kind of a counterpart program to it's just as illegal as the counterpart program where people schedule their illegal immigration at the border, at the Rio Grande or somewhere else, using this cell phone app. Well, this is the kind of lesser known, but almost as large and just as illegal counterpart where people from 9 countries, supposedly for family reunification, although anybody can sponsor them, even a company or whatever, can just get authorization to fly directly to airports in the United States, even though they have no visas and they don't qualify to come into the United States. The administration is just letting them do it. And last year, almost 1/3 320,000 people took advantage of this program. And we found out the number because we just asked. We submitted a Freedom of Information Act request. But we had to sue because they wouldn't tell us where they're going. What airports are these people going to? And we figured, okay, well, we'll keep bugging them in court and try to get it out of them. The latest excuse they gave, and this is what really prompted us to do this, the latest excuse they gave is that if they told us which airports they were going to, that would create security vulnerabilities that bad actors could exploit because this program is creating such a burden at airports that it's creating security problems. In other words, their own program is a security threat to the United States. So my question is, how can they justify continuing to do it?
Is there any indication like how they decide where to send these people? Is it just where they have open seats on flights? I mean, and do you have any hope that you will find out where they're actually sending folks?
No, people buy their own tickets. So this is not. There are other programs where nonprofit groups funded by the government will pay you. Will buy your plane tickets. These people are coming from wherever, Nicaragua or Colombia or what have you. They're buying their own tickets or their relatives are paying for them, and they go wherever they want, any airports. Now, you can guess what the main airports are. They're going to be going to New York and Chicago and Miami and what have you. But where are the numbers? Don't the local officials and the voters in those places deserve to know how many inadmissible aliens? Remember, these people are essentially illegal aliens. The government is letting them in, but it has no authority to do that. Don't those people in those places deserve to know how many people are showing up, on airports in their communities?
So I had an experience recently where I was in Dallas, and there was a whole group of people, and they all had that envelope. And you
Right.
kind of seen this online, and they all were very confused. There was no English being spoken, and so you're saying those could have been these people, or those are the other people? I mean, if we're seeing those groups of people come in, they could have chosen to. They were in Dallas.
They could have been. It could have been this, direct flight program where they're coming straight from another country, or they could have crossed at the land border, and at Biden's direction, the Border Patrol just let them go, and they had these folders, and they, will take a bus or a plane somewhere else in the United States. It's all bad. It's all illegal. It's just that this particular part of it is especially galling, and it's something that nobody's really focused much attention on before.
And those numbers are astounding. I mean, hundreds of thousands in 1 year, over 300,000 in 1 year. And it's not the first year it's gone on. We're talking with Mark Krikorian, Executive Director at the Center for Immigration Studies, CIS.org.
Mark, we've got a couple hundred Missouri National Guardsmen down on the border, along with some Missouri State Highway Patrol troopers. What's your take on the high court staying the Texas law that would allow police to arrest and detain the migrants?
The National Guard from a lot of states, and they're coming from lots of states, Missouri, Florida, Tennessee, a lot of places, Massachusetts, I think. New Hampshire also said some. And that's good as far as it goes. But, and this relates to the new Texas law question, there's only so much states can do. Ultimately, the federal government has to fix this. But in the meantime, what Texas tried to do, they've been trying everything they can think of. They passed a law that was supposed to go into effect, I think, next week or maybe the end of this week, and it's been postponed but not overturned, would make illegally entering Texas a state crime, because it's already a federal crime, make it a state crime so that they can arrest and prosecute illegal immigrants on their own if Biden won't do it. And this is the twist, the judge can waive the prison sentence if the illegal immigrant is escorted to the border and then crosses back to Mexico. And so the claim is this is a deportation, which states aren't allowed to do, although it really isn't. They're just driving them there and watching them cross the border. So anyway, the point is that's got to be litigated. The Supreme Court did not overturn the law or have any opinion on it. They just said it can't go into effect until at least the 13th of this month because there are issues to resolve, that sort of thing. So it's still up in the air. We'll see what happens. I have no, powers of prediction.
Mark, our audience covers a large swath of mid-Missouri, and our studios are here in Columbia, a college town, a liberal town. I ran across this story in the American Renaissance about a small Wisconsin town, a satellite of University of Wisconsin, Whitewater, Wisconsin. And they are struggling because they prided themselves in, being accepting and this and that, just like the bigger cities have. But now, with the influx of 1,000, quote, new neighbors, newcomers, as Biden's White House is now referring to them, their budget is tanked. Their public safety is eroding. Why does this develop in certain cities like Whitewater, Wisconsin? And at what risk is a liberal city like Columbia, Missouri, to becoming the next Whitewater, Wisconsin, or others to where these flights or these buses may come?
Oh, it's entirely possible. It can happen anywhere because, look, every town is a border town now. Every state is a border state. It's not like people have to walk from the Rio Grande to central Missouri or to Wisconsin. They hop on a bus and they're there in a few hours. It really underlines this story you're talking about and the threat that could happen any place, any town in Missouri or any other state, really underlines the fact that numbers are what matter. If this little town in Wisconsin had gotten 2 families, even if they were illegal aliens, and that's bad, but I'm just talking about the impact. If they'd gotten 2 families showing up, okay, that's no big deal. Even a small town can deal with that. When you get 1,000 people showing up in a town of, I think, what is this, like 15,000?
15,000, yeah.
Yeah, that is not something you can deal with. It doesn't matter how welcoming and neighborly. It doesn't even matter how wealthy you are. I mean, New York City is experiencing real problems. They're an enormous city with millions of people, and, they've gotten tens of thousands of these border jumpers who ended up there. Most of them got there on their own. They were not bussed there by Texas governor, and they're having problems. So as a politician, I think it was a British politician once said, numbers are of the essence. If immigration is low enough, there's always going to be some illegal immigration, but if you keep illegal immigration, sort of to a dull roar, and legal immigration is low enough, we can deal with it. Numbers matter. The numbers are too big. The law enforcement people can't successfully deal with it, and the communities, whether it's schools or anything else, can't successfully deal with it either.
What's amazing, Mark, is the way the left media, just yesterday, MSNBC, Jen Psaki, I believe it was Jen Psaki, was joking about how exit polls in Virginia showed that the immigration is the number one issue. And she's saying something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, what have Virginia voters? Our border's with West Virginia. It's not with Texas. And I just, they're blind. They're just blind as to the reality of this is a national security problem in everyone's backyard. And it's going to be the prominent issue opposed to the abortion issue that I think is going to frame this election. And which one wins out, I don't know. A question for you, a practical question. If a President Biden trying to mine for votes, I don't think it would happen, but he could do it, or a President Trump if he's elected, were to implement some of the containers with razor wire and some of the other strategies that Greg Abbott's implemented, how far could that faucet be turned off, and in what amount of time? Just back of the napkin calculation.
There's no question you can stop this. Some people are like despairing. Some people even are going off the deep end and say, well, we got to start people. It's like, no, we don't. We just need to start enforcing the law. Border Patrol knows how to do this. They just need to be permitted to do their job. But it's clear, though, that stopping anything like this is harder than starting it, because there's a constant pressure to move here. And if you give way and people start pouring in, it's going to be harder to turn it off. But it can be turned off. I mean, I don't know. I can't come up with any magic numbers, but it seems to me within a few months, you can dramatically reduce the numbers. In fact, if President Trump were elected, the numbers would go down before he even took office, probably, because people, or at least as soon as he took office, because all kinds of people would be worrying about, what is the crazy orange man going to do? You know what I mean? But the key thing is you can't just let people go the way they're doing if they cross the border. Catch and release just encourages more illegal immigration. And so what that means is they've got to spend money and devote probably even Defense Department resources to setting up detention facilities. You hold people and then give them quick immigration hearings, a kind of last in, first out. So you deal with the people you're just getting across the border right away, and change the expectation that you're going to be let go. Because if you can change that and people, send texts or selfies home or whatever, hey, brother-in-law, I completely failed. I'm going to be deported and I'm out $10,000 and you probably shouldn't try it right now.
Yeah.
That's the message you need to send. That can work. You just have to want to do it. This administration, so far, doesn't want to do it.
You're right. I mean, the decisive action would limit the flow and send the message, because they are just streaming in. It's just an atrocity. It's just unbelievable. Hey, I thank you for realize it, but this is an anniversary, right?
An important one.
About a year ago.
We went mega viral.
Yeah,
Involving a Florida man.
Involving a Florida man. So we had the Congressman Luke DeMeyer, on the show earlier this week. He was on our show last year, I think the day before today. And we asked him toward the end about his friend Matt Gaetz. Friend in quotation marks. And he basically said Matt Gaetz only stunts for the cameras. His daddy built him a studio in his basement. He wants to be a TV star. He did not hold back. And the look on all of our faces were like, wow, there is no love lost there. The clip got posted on Twitter. Matt Gaetz got a hold of it then and went after Blaine Luke DeMeyer. And I've got this tweet.
That was uncharacteristic of Blaine, right? I mean, that's not like him. Very mild-mannered, usually.
But you could tell this was...
He was fired up.
Yeah, he was super fired up.
I remember that. I heard it.
And Matt Gaetz goes on to tweet, until this clip, I forgot Blaine Luke DeMeyer was even a member of Congress. He's a foolish husk of a human, apparently upset that I'm a more effective representative, blah, blah, blah. And that tweet has about 330,000 views on Twitter. It went super viral, which is hilarious. But then what's funny is like everyone came to Congressman Luke DeMeyer's defense, of course. And then even, and I've got a great clip of Brian who is like almost spits out whatever, like his coffee, because then the Post-Dispatch, who should be, you know, they enjoyed the Republican stuff, but you think they would just, you know, take a chance to take a shot at Luke DeMeyer. Their headline was Florida man disses Congressman Luke DeMeyer. And that's what Brian's like, he's Florida man, he's a congressman. And so Brian didn't like the fact that they used Florida man. Of course, we got a good kick out of it, but it was fun being involved in a congressional debate between two members.
Like you said, it was out of character for Blaine big time.
But I think he had it, you know, and those guys, I mean, you could, you know, even reasonable people and cool-minded people, you know, you can push and you can push and you can push. And I mean, I think I have that feeling about the Missouri Senate some days, that there are people there who have been very kind and who and they continue to be pushed and pushed and pushed. And at some point, you just have to put your foot down and say, this is enough. Like, we've got to govern, we've got to get the business done. And I think at that point, Congressman Luke DeMeyer had said, we got to quit just fronting for the cameras and we got to do the people's work. And I'm here to do the people's work. And I would be frustrated if I was him, too, by the Freedom Caucus.
You know, everyone has their window of grace and tolerance, right? And some wider, some narrower. But when you breach that window, people will that's when you see the emotions come out. And clearly at that moment, he'd had enough. It was it. And he let her rip.
Yeah.
It was great.
My husband likes to tell my kids, if mom starts yelling, you know things are going down and you are in trouble, so you better clean it up.
Yeah, that was a great moment. You know, if you're just joining us in a little bit, Nikki Haley is going to be making her withdrawal announcement from the campaign. She's done. She only won Vermont by a couple of percentage points, largely on the wings of Democrats and independents and never Trumpers, I guess, a small portion there. It was an open primary, but it's really over, and now that sets the stage for a historic and unprecedented match. We essentially have two incumbents. I mean, you know, Trump incumbent light, and we've got Joe Biden. Never have there been two people of this sage and wise chronology, right, Hannah?
Age,
right?
Old.
Sage and wise. Brian Hauswirth, I just heard some ageism going on.
Yeah,
I heard some ageism going on here from the gallery.
Old AF.
I think both candidates. If they're politically smart, would say into the microphone, I will not let. And they can't really say about the other one because they're obviously about the same age, but they're primary opponents. They could say, I will not try to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience. And of course, that would be a reference to Ronald Reagan at either Municipal or Kemper Arena. But that was in Kansas City in 1984.
About Walter Mondale.
That's right. Exactly.
But your health, I mean, you're the health guy, Doc. Your health at that age is so fragile. So don't you think that makes the VP pick ever more important?
I mean, actuarially, it's likely that
one of them
if
dies.
Not before the election, certainly after it, one or both of them are going to face some health challenges. I mean, Donald Trump's got he's got his share of some visceral fat. Look at his waistline and visceral fat. Well, visceral fat.
Hey, we don't want to go viral today, okay?
Visceral
don't
fat.
Call Donald Trump
okay,
fat.
we're gonna have a medical discussion here. I'm guilty as accused too. I have more than I should have, but visceral fat, especially in a male, is a cardiovascular risk factor. It's a strong cardiovascular risk factor. I mean, he's the guy that loves Coca-Cola and big marbled corn-fed steaks and
McDonald's
and
Mickey
everything.
D's.
Okay, that's just a reality, right? And we see what's happening. But here's the problem. Going forward, the left is so Trump deranged. These problems, mental illness goes usually hand in hand. Usually you don't have one. Often it's very common to have, a couple of diagnoses. For instance, depression often is accompanied by anxiety. And people that have one may have another. No, really, it's true. It's true. So
No, I speak from experience.
So now
That's why.
Joy Reid has Trump derangement syndrome, but she also is a pathological liar. Listen to this.
Donald Trump had one job. He had one crisis. He's saying, all of these things were perfect. You had one crisis, bruh. It was called the pandemic. And you know what you did? You bollocksed it completely. You did so poorly at managing your sole crisis. The one hard thing you do, the reason he doesn't look old like Biden looks older, the presidency ages you when you do the job. Obama went gray because he was doing the work. Donald Trump looks the same as when he ran because he was playing golf the whole time.
Now, okay, news guy Brian, news guy John, who spent more time away from the Oval Office, Donald Trump or Joe Biden?
Well, I don't have the records in front of me, but I mean, obviously she's wrong when she says Donald Trump played golf all the time. He was, by the way, he didn't take a salary when he was the president of the United States. He didn't take pay. But I mean, I remember him coming to Missouri for various events. Of course, Biden has been in the past, not recently, in Jefferson City. He's been to Jeff City twice that I know of. But I assume that's from MSNBC.
Yeah, there's just abject lies here. I mean, and to say that he only had one crisis, no, he had several foreign policy issues to deal with as well. He had the Syrian issue going on. There were other things.
And it wasn't just COVID. There were many other things. You obviously had other things as well. And
we shouldn't tolerate it.
Natural disasters.
We shouldn't tolerate this kind of reporting, left or right. Shouldn't tolerate it.
For our older audience, let me just throw out a couple names. And when I think of NBC News, Roger Mudd, John Chancellor, and you look back at the standard they set.
Sandy Van Oker.
I mean, that is more opinion that you just played than, I mean, that's fine if they want to do it as opinion, but I don't, she is an anchor on that particular network, and she's very, pretty popular.
Okay, but I have more for you, okay? Here's a pathetic and delusional Joe Biden as he's getting off the airplane, leaning into the camera as he is wont to do. Mm-hmm. And this is what he said to reporters about how he's doing. This guy, I don't know. He needs to have that cognitive test. I'm telling you, he needs that mini mental status examination. Paper, rock, umbrella, repeated 5 minutes later, here goes.
I told you guys that before. I'm winning. Five in a row. You guys only look at the New York Times. They're a great paper.
I'm winning. 5 polls in a row. Well, okay, so I figure I'm going to do a little Randy Tobler fact check. I go to the RCP polling page. The latest thing. Out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 polls, he's winning by 1 point in 3 of them. So it's an abject lie. He's having conversations in his head which are not real.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind too, and he may be up by 1 or down by 1. It depends on what poll, of course, and they're all very close. But ultimately, what it really boils down to, the national media needs to quit talking about this poll up, 1, and down. The bottom line is it's the Electoral College. Have we learned nothing from 2020? Mm-hmm. You can lose the popular vote. George W. Bush, 2000. Rutherford B. Hayes, 1876. You can lose the popular vote and still win. And Donald Trump came very close, closer than any people would want to admit, even progressives. He came darn close, probably 25,000 votes in a couple of states away from being the president. Even, whether he says there was fraud or whatever, take that notwithstanding, he darn near won, and he would have won without the popular vote. So I hear this stuff all the time about and I know why they're doing it because it is newsworthy, but it's it's the electoral college that ultimately determines the presidential race. And nobody ever mentions that until election night. We remember all of a sudden in November 2024, we got an electoral college.
You take a deep dive into the swing states, and Trump is doing a lot better than the national average.
Well, exactly. In the reason, but Biden starts off with a big advantage. He's going. I mean, automatically you figure he's going to get California, New York. I mean, you automatically think that, and then the Republicans have. It's going to ultimately be about 6 or 8 swing states. But it was very hard to hear him in that soundbite. And I'm not sure what he's referencing. Read the New York Times or a great paper. I don't know if he was upset at a story. Maybe he was genuine. I don't know. I don't know the context of that. But I will tell our listeners, I've said this many, many times, Randy, on this show, he being President Joe Biden, is going to be tough to beat. I do believe Donald Trump has a very good chance at unseating him, but I think it's going to be a very, very close election, and we'll see what happens.
There's a lot of them said, Brian. Yeah, we talk about Michigan and Pennsylvania and Arizona and all of that being into the mix, just like last time around.
Which begs the question of RFK, and will he be the difference maker?
And that could be, Stephanie, your point is very well taken. I want to make one other point. You're exactly right about RFK. George W. Bush and Al Gore in 2000. Everybody talks about Florida and the hanging chads and everything else. But Ralph Nader, had he not taken, I forgot how, maybe 500,000 votes away, probably from Al Gore wins the presidency.
Yep.
So
there's no Supreme Court battle.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I can't imagine that Nader's voters would have gone for Bush over. And by the way, the Buchanan did surprisingly well in Florida as well. But the point is these third party candidates can make a difference.
Ross Perot,
19%.
We're getting reminders. I was talking about the event last night at which Cindy O'Loughlin was honored for being Stateswoman of the Year in Scott Fawn's wonderfully hosted event.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah. And someone had joked that Lincoln Hoff got the puppy. And I remember him saying, "I don't want any part of that." Donna Behringer, St. Louis Rep. District 82, got the puppy last night.
She's
cutest little puppy, some kind of something doodle.
Yeah, Donna
puppies
Behringer,
these days are always something doodles.
And Donna is someone who is I'll tell you, she's a very. We should have her on the show sometime. She's a very serious lawmaker and she's one of the senior members from St. Louis City.
She named it Roisin, which
she
means
was there.
Little Rose in Irish.
Yeah, I didn't know she got the puppy, but I think that's fantastic. She is I can see big things happening for her. She's going to be term limited in the House, but the Democrats have some people like her that Greg Razor, Barbara Washington, among others, who I think could do some stuff. But Cindy O'Loughlin, I was not there, but I obviously was very intrigued by our interview with her. Just a fascinating person. And a formidable. I mean, she beat 3 incumbent GOP state representatives to win that Senate primary back in 2018. One was Lyndall Shoemake, one was Craig Redmond, and the other one, I'm drawing a blank. He was from Kirksville, the guy that wanted Greitens impeached. I'm drawing a blank, but you know who I'm talking about. She beat them all. I mean, she is a very tough candidate. And I thought the most telling thing she said, Randy, we were running out of time. She said at the end of that interview, I wrote it down. She said the education lobby in Jeff City is the biggest lobby.
Yes.
And that they basically tell rural lawmakers, if you vote for school choice, you will be voted out. So that is, I'm going to use that in my when I put up the interview.
Yeah.
That was powerful. Wow.
the landfill. And so if you recall, there is a lot of contention over the nearby neighbors and the potential for a landfill. And the I think the neighbors have gone to the legislature asking for help. And this, I think, would allow what they're saying, more control over the placement of landfills by the neighbors. Of course, if you're the property owner who bought that and it was fully legal to put a landfill there, you have a problem now as well. But they were debating and I think advanced that bill yesterday.
The issue, again, I heard you talking about it one day when I was out. The issue is there's a defined exclusion zone, right?
And where it's proposed now would meet the current requirements.
Right, but that's not satisfactory to the neighbors. They want to change the rules after someone invested in the land.
Correct.
That seems odd.
Well, the House seems poised to help them out.
Why
apparently.
would they do this?
I don't know.
How is that a small R Republican thing?
Good question, Randy.
Good lobbyists.
If any House members would like to weigh in on why that's a small R Republican thing to change the rules after someone has made an investment and played by those rules, please let us know. And call here, 573-874-9390. Or get a hold of one of us on Twitter, DM us or whatever.
Yeah, these NIMBY issues and land use issues get really tough, especially at the local level, because oftentimes the people involved. We get a lot of it in Ashland. It's sometimes those decisions are really tough.
Well, that one that we talked about before on the air, Steph, was the one up there in suburban Kansas City, and they focused in on during some of the debate on it that this is a growth area for residential, and previously it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and that's what's at issue on this bill, and it'll be headed to the Senate, although, Cindy O'Loughlin didn't have it on her list of important things.
No, it wasn't on her list of priorities. John, what's going on in your leftover world?
Well, we've heard that Mizzou is pushing